Hi, everyone. Welcome to CAAMFest. My name is Marky Enriquez, and I'm the Digital and Interactive Media Manager here at CAAM. Thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to support CAAM and our future programs, please consider joining as a member or make a donation. Click on the button above for more information. Thank you to our sponsor, DoorDash, and our co-presenters, Spotlight Creative and Bindlestiff Studio. You just watched The Debut, directed by Gene Cajayon. The story is about Ben, who struggles with his desire to study art when his family thinks he's headed for pre-med. Conflicts between Filipino traditions and expectations versus personal dreams in the contemporary world erupt at his sister's debut. This is a classic Filipino American coming-of-age story that premiered at CAAMFest, back then known as SF International Asian American Film Festival, back in 2001. Folks, I'm excited to have the filmmakers here with me. Please welcome Gene Cajayon, the director, John Castro, co-writer, associate producer, Patricio Janelsa, the associate producer, and actor Dante Basco. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. What's up?
Hey, how's everybody doing? What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
We're good.
It's been a few years since we did this movie.
Just a few.
This is amazing. I know.
I got my shirt. I'm ready. I'm ready to sell merchandise,
right.
guys. So we're set.
We're a little grayer.
Great.
We're a little grayer since we did this film.
A lot grayer.
Yeah.
That's right, y'all. Well, we are here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of this film. So, as a matter of fact, I was at that premiere at Kabuki in SF way back when. So, this was one of the first feature films made by and for Filipino Americans, and it's seriously like created the blueprint for future productions. Like, I want to go around the room. What are your thoughts about the film 20 years later? Like, any reflections? We can start with Gene.
I just, at this point, I'm just very, very happy that it's kind of like attained a life of its own, and it's old enough now where a whole new generation of people are discovering it for the first time. And so that's kind of neat, especially seeing the both the parallels of what hasn't changed in the last 20 years and also the things that are different. And so I just feel very fortunate to be a part of something that appears to have some staying power.
Nice. John, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just rewatched it over the weekend just to refresh my memory. And I was getting a little emotional. I was like, wow, I can't believe, first of all, I can't believe we did this over 20 years ago, filming it and screening 20 years ago. But I was like, wow, this is actually not bad. I was like, it holds up. And like the setup, I was like, oh, this is a really good setup. Like the first act, I was like, wow, this is a nice setup. And like Gene said, it's held up after all these years, and people are asking like if we're going to do a sequel. We could talk about that later. And some stuff can be a little cringy, but we were very young when we wrote this. We were early 20s, and the comments that you read sometimes are kind of funny when you look at some message boards about it. So, especially the use of certain language, and yeah.
Language bothers you now. The debut was my film school, my real film school. I mean, I joined late. I had nothing to do with creatively in terms of writing and directing it. But in the end of it made me believe that it was possible to make a movie like this. That's the only reason why I joined, and it made me create my voice and find my voice as a filmmaker. And so I always remember the debut as if you're a Filipino American filmmaker, it's a must see. Not just the movie itself, but just the making behind it. I think if people really dig into how it was made, what Gene and John and the entire cast went through to make that, and even beyond the production of going through distribution and what we did with this tour, it's a story that I feel that everyone needs to learn about. So for me, the film school and also building my confidence as a filmmaker is really what I see the debut as.
Amazing. Dante, your thoughts?
So many great memories. I mean, it's one of films I'm most proud of being a part of in my career, because it's the first, quote unquote Filipino American film made in Hollywood, and to star in it and to kind of represent for our community. It's such something that holds a lot of pride with myself. I started acting when I was 10. I think I did this film when I was 21, I think. And it was the first time I got to play Filipino in a movie. Officially, I mean, every role I play is Filipino, but officially written as a Filipino character is really important. And like Patricio, it was a film school for me, and it really kind of inspired the things I would do later on in life, not just in front of the camera, but also behind the camera, producing Asian American films and directing Asian American films. Being a part of this particular film definitely, just informed me about what's going to happen in the future and storytelling on my side of things.
For sure. This was obviously a groundbreaking film when it came out, not only for Filipino Americans, but for cinema in general. I mean, just did it feel special when you were making it, Gene?
Special, I don't know would have been the right word. It was more like just mass chaos and abject fear, at least throughout the shooting of the movie. Because, basically what had happened was several weeks prior to the beginning of production, the vast majority of our funding pulled out, because they were just asking for really just unreasonable terms. And so we decided to part ways with that investor and then rely on my credit cards. And I had 21 credit cards at the time and maxed them all out. I had them in reserve because I wanted to be prepared for just such a situation. And of course it happened. And so for me, the actual production of the thing, from, I would say probably about 2 years prior to production starting all the way through until completing the film, was just one crisis after another and one intense issue to overcome after another. And and I think Patricio understands, because he just went through this with Lumpia with a Vengeance. Sometimes you just feel like it's never going to end. and it's like torture, because little things that you don't think would be so difficult, like a few $100s for a reshoot or whatever it might be, end up being this massive challenge. So I wasn't really thinking about historical significance, or even though that was always in the back of my mind, and one of the reasons why we did the film. When we were actually making it, when it came down to actually making the movie, it was just all hands on deck, do whatever you can to get through this day and get through the next day and try to get to the finish line. And there were many times where it really did feel like we may never finish this movie. So 20 years on, to look back on, not only were we able to finish the movie in no small part because of the support of the three gentlemen that have joined me here, CAM, the Asian American community in general, we made it, and it lives on to this day. And there's a part of me that looks back and just thinks to myself, how did we do that? I don't,
Yeah.
It was, hey, I feel grateful and humbled that we were able to get it done, and that people still appreciate it to this day.
Yeah.
See,
As far as cast, I think.
go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead, John. I'm just saying.
Back on Gene, like the first day of shooting, there were night shoots, and I just saw this freaking giant crane in the middle of our shoot, right? And I go, oh my God, we're actually freaking doing this. I was like, how much did that crane cost? And it was a real battle. Every day it just felt like we're on survival mode, just physically too, because the first couple weeks were night shoots. and I was wrangling. One of my big jobs during production was wrangling the extras, and I had to just find as many Filipinos like I can who could show up at 12 in the morning to fill up a basketball court or the gym.
Right.
But that was just the beginning. That was just a battle in a bigger war, like just getting into the theaters, which is another battle also. So we could get to that part later on, but yeah, it was. Yeah, we didn't think of the historical significance. We just wanted to survive. Basically, that's what it was.
And
Dante?
hearing the stories, I'm definitely thankful I was just on the talent side of this particular project, because I didn't have to deal with the production side, which I've had to deal with later on in my career. And I totally understand putting out fires every day. I understand that aspect of filmmaking. But on the talent side, and I can speak for the whole cast, including my brothers and Joy and Bernadette, and the Filipino side, Tirso and Gina. I mean, I think we all knew it was pretty special. There's a special bond going on with us as a group of actors together. And I often talk to younger actors on other sets where I can feel that happening again, and letting the cast members know, like, we work on a lot of things throughout our career. They're not always going to be as special as this one is, and really, take care of that, be respectful to each other, kind of like enjoy this time together. I mean, we had several, our crew hung out on set for 12, 14, 16 hours. Then we hung out hours after, going out to bars and restaurants and kicking it. And the bonds that we created really, I think, kind of got into the DNA of the film. And I think that helped create the ambiance of what we were doing. And so, again, these are people, of course, my family members, but also other members of the cast that became friends for a long time. I keep in touch with and truly love. Tirso Cruz in my new film, Fabulous Filipino Brothers, again, goes all the way back to this film. But we definitely, as a clique, definitely had a very special bond as a cast. And it was quite, if you talk to any member of the cast, we'll be like, oh yeah, that film, we had a good time throughout the whole making of this particular film.
Thank goodness that you did too, because I mean, I was in no emotional shape, Dante, to be able to be like a compassionate, empathetic human being during that set. So I really appreciate you guys going out and forming those bonds independently, because I was just catatonic halfway throughout the show.
But see, you got to remember that.
Gene, I understand it. I totally understand.
I heard the makeup chair in the makeup room in the costume room where there was a lot of stuff going on there.
Tim and Michelle. We just hung out with Tim. Tim's still a close family friend and does a lot of work with my niece Ella J. Basco on her video shoots. And of course, he's award-winning makeup artist these days, doing Black Panther and all these crazy stuff for Marvel.
But see, that's why I was an ultimate fanboy, Marky, because I'm coming outside. I started as an intern going on set, and I just remember by the time I moved up to an extra, I went from they needed folks, and I remember being in the gym scene, and I was like, wow, I was an office intern, and now I'm on set, and I remember just seeing all these Filipinos on the movie set, and it was already inspiring just being there, and and you can sense, like, I knew looking outside that this was going to be a major film, and I wanted to soak this in and every knowledge. Obviously, Gene casted me to be the lechon kid. I was supposed to bring in the lechon. I was so ready. I cut out of work, and then of course Gene cut me out. I waited all day and I never shot it.
That's Hollywood, baby. That's Hollywood.
I said, "Welcome to Hollywood." I was so mad at Gene for all those years.
Did you have a shirt? You had a T-shirt.
Yeah, I had the yellow shirt. Was it Sunset, Manila Sunset or something?
Manila
it was a yellow.
Sunset.
Yeah. No, I was all red. The makeup artist. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Patricia's gonna be on the movie," and I was like, "Oh, well." Yeah. Well, I moved up.
Dante kind of touched on it. I just thought, I want to ask Gene, or who was part of the process of getting that cast together, because it really seemed like everybody meshed so well, like everybody got along and seemed to be having so much fun together on set. Like, how did this cast come together?
Well, we were blessed with time was one of the biggest things. We started working on, the casting, it ran pretty much at least 2 years, at least it was probably about a year and a half to 2 years prior to principal photography starting is when we started working on the cast. And by the way, Dante, you were always our number one choice, but we have to have him in the movie. And so it really geeked us. We were just geeking out when you actually did say yes and you were going to be in the film. And then not only that, we were able to get your brothers and your sister in the movie. It was just...
I do have great memories of me and Gene flying out to the Philippines to do the Filipino casting. Yeah, quite an adventure. That's the first time I was in the Philippines, Gene. That trip.
I know. I remember.
Led to working with people again, like I'm still working with today in the Philippines in the Filipino cinema scene. But me and Gene going out for that, Philam Boys pilgrimage back to the homeland under the guise of making a movie and meeting with some of the biggest stars in the Philippines that me and Gene did not know. But when you start working with them, really understanding, their stardom and who they are in the world, and I started to understand acting in a different way, even dealing with actors that I did not grow up with, but understanding how masterful they are at their craft.
For sure. Well, I love the cast. The cast just felt like everybody was just such good friends, and there was that chemistry that really came through on screen. So this film was hugely popular when it was released, and I'm gonna have to ask this question, Gene. Did you ever consider making a sequel?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, this was 2012. We actually went back to the Philippines. I flew back to the Philippines with the treatment that Patricio, John, and I worked on to see if there would be interest. And we got a yes. And then a no a couple of days after we got our yes, because it turns out the entity, the company that wanted to make the sequel, got bought by a bigger company, and they eliminated the film division as part of that merger. So it was kind of a heartbreaker. But yeah, it was supposed to be, and it was going to be a wedding movie. And the big idea that we had was we wanted to try to, with the sequel, bridge the gap between the expat Filipino American community, which is like 10% of all Filipinos in the world are living outside of the Philippines, and with the Filipinos who still are in the Philippines, because kind of a dirty little secret of Asian American movies is that the vast majority of Asian American films are not successful in the home country of the expat that is making the movie, right? Like for example, Better Luck Tomorrow was not a big hit in Asia. The Debut tanked in Asia. There's just not that. There's a disconnect between the two experiences of the immigrants who leave versus the folks who stay. And so the big idea that we had was to bridge that gap. Let's make it a wedding movie, and let's make it set in the Philippines, and we'll have the extended Mercado family from all around the world, because that's how Filipinos are. Most Filipino families have like a cousin in the United States, an aunt in Hong Kong, an uncle in Saudi Arabia, all over the world. And so we wanted to kind of like bring them all back to Manila for this wedding. Basically,
sounds like Crazy Rich Asians.
It was Crazy Rich Asians before Crazy Rich Asians, but it was the same concept, the same ideas that to bridge the gap, set it in the home country, and have the immigrant community come back to the home country for that. And so it was really cool to see Crazy Rich Asians take that idea and knock it out of the park. It
would have been Crazy Middle Class Filipinos. That's
yeah.
I think you're onto something there, John.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, folks, we are getting close to being out of time right now. I just want to thank you all for joining us today here at CAAMFest. And I want to give you the opportunity to, let us know what each of you are working on. I know you all are working on some kind of project. And why don't we start with Dante?
Yeah, well, I'm proud to say that my film I just directed, my first film, The Fabulous Filipino Brothers, starring myself and my brothers, is at this film festival. So hope you guys can catch a viewing of that, and hopefully be out in a wider audience by the end of the year.
John.
What am I doing? Well, after the debut, I decided to become a chef. So I've been chefing for all these years.
A really good one too, by the way.
Yeah. Had some Filipino American pop-ups for the past couple of years. Yeah, and then during the pandemic, it got me in writing mode. So I wrote 2 short films that I want to get done when we get out of this crazy times. Speaking of debut 2, I've been actually ruminating in my head what we would do for debut 2. So I've been trying to write a treatment for it, a more fully functional treatment. Because I saw the one that Pat gave me a few years back, and I think I need more fleshing out.
Whatever ignites you, John. Whatever gets you going. You know.
So I want to flesh that one out, and got my second vaccination. So yeah, I'm ready to party.
Ready to rock and roll, John Castro.
I'm not going to be there in 2 weeks for CAAM to see the Olympia premiere and the Fabulous Filipino Brothers premiere. So, yeah.
Speaking of the Olympia premiere, I'm looking at Patricio's background right now. He's got that amazing Olympia with a Vengeance poster on the back. Patricio, what do you got cooking for us?
So yeah, I mean, I drank the debut Gatorade. I put my credit cards in, and I, directed Olympia with a Vengeance, which will be making its San Francisco premiere alongside Dante's Fabulous Filipino Brothers film. It's a double feature. So I want to see you guys. You got to come out.
Darian Basco and both. Darian Basco.
Yes, Joey Gila, Derek Basco. We're all got some crew from our film that also worked on Dante's film. Look. We all share the debut DNA. That's why
it's all the same universe. It's all in the debut universe.
What's so cool about it is because for our premiere, when we premiered, opening night was Flipside, the very first Filipino American film to be at Sundance.
Yeah.
And we got closing night. And then 20 years later, I mean, just look at the symmetry of it. It's just so cool that that you guys now have co-created films with kind of very similar, in many ways, very similar DNA in terms of what you guys are interested in and themes and everything. I mean, it's like I get chills thinking that's cool, man.
And Gene, just to end it off, what are you working on now?
Well, in the time after the debut, I became a single dad, and I needed to balance the responsibilities of being a single dad with being a filmmaker, and I realized the hard way over many years that those two things just don't mix. at least in terms of what I needed to do for my 2 sons. And so I basically worked on one screenplay after another, and developed a nice little portfolio of work, but was never able to make another film, not because I didn't have the opportunities. A number of really interesting projects came my way, but I had to say no to them all because they all were very similar in that I would have had to work for free or almost free, right? And you just can't do that when you got kids. So that was my 20 years for these last few times. That being said, we are in the process of figuring out how to encourage Sony to include the debut in its output deal with Netflix that it just signed a couple of weeks ago. So anybody out there who feels like writing a nice, friendly email or letter to Sony Pictures, please do so, and please ask them to also include the debut with the many other films that they are going to be distributing on Netflix for the next several years.
Like Fabulous Filipino Brothers and Olympia with a Vengeance, please.
There it is. There it is. No, because
it's,
we've been fighting, and I don't know why this is, but for whatever reason, Sony has never, in its entire time that it's had distribution on this film, Sony has never made it available. It's available for a la carte, right? Where you can rent it for an individual, rental, or you can buy it at all the major sites, but it's never been available in the kind of all-you-can-eat video on demand subscription services like Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or Hulu. And for whatever reason, they haven't done it. And now that they have this new Netflix deal, I'm hoping that will be the big difference. And finally, it'll be available on just all-you-can-eat streaming, and hopefully opened the film up to a whole new bunch of folks who wouldn't discover it any other way.
You know, what's funny is that they actually extended their distribution deal too with us, right?
Yeah, that's the weird thing. I mean, they were enthusiastic to extend to re-up on our contract. I mean, we were very flattered. We didn't think they were interested in us because of the fact that they didn't put it on streaming. We were thinking, well, if you're not going to put it on streaming, you must not think very much of us. But then we talked to they're like, yeah, we want to renew because you're in overage, which is very rare for an independent film. Overage means they're actually profitable on their end with the investment they made in our movie, right? Which is very rare for an independent film to do so. So I don't know why they haven't done the streaming thing. So that's the reason why we're all trying to figure out who we know over there at Sony so we can kind of nudge them and get them to finally put this thing on Netflix so that kids can see it.
Yeah, Gene, well, we hope that, we can, this next generation can enjoy the debut because it was obviously, a groundbreaking film, not only for Filipino Americans, but for cinema in general. I just want to congratulate you all for the 20th anniversary of this film. Amazing, congratulations. And, unfortunately, we are out of time, but I want to thank you all for joining us today and for being part of CAAMFest. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you for doing this very much, guys.
You got the drive-in.
And once again, I want to thank all my guests for joining us here at CAAMFest. And thank you for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of the festival. Take care. Peace.